I promise to bring you your Easter, your Resurrection Sunday, your holy days, and being one with your God, your Savior, your truth. I will bring it to you as often as possible, reading you passages from the Bible. From what I read today was read from 400 years ago. This is the anniversary of the King James Bible. This is 1611 is when it was first published. 2011, this particular edition was printed. This, as you can see, is the Queen's crest. This was made especially for the young man who will be king one day, Prince William, when he married Catherine Middleton, who will be Queen of England someday. I ask you that if you want me to dedicate a reading, it would be the video itself, anything I speak of God. But especially the passage, because it comes from the Bible. If you want me to dedicate one that I've planned to do, I will dedicate it to you if you are in need of healing and to be closer to God, or of a friend or loved one, a relative, or something very important in this world that needs to be done, some healing in this world that needs to be done. Let me know and I will dedicate it. If you don't want me to say the name, I will say that this particular video, this reading, is dedicated to someone special or something that needs to be done in this world. But I'll be more than happy to dedicate anything you wish. And I'd be more than honored to speak the words, the name of who it is, or what it is, what event that you want this dedicated to. If you have a particular reading that you want me to read, even if it's a poem, many poems, when you hear them, they bring you very close to God. Sometimes it's a story. There are many things. I can do that too. Dedicate that. There are many religions, and I'd be more than happy to dedicate a passage. As long as you don't try to trick me and have me read a passage that is very, very, has ill intent. Since I study religion, ancient and contemporary, I cannot be fooled by such things. But I wanted you to know this, because this is the first video in this series, and hopefully this will continue on. I may if it doesn't work well on one channel, I may move it to another channel. My other channel, the Diamond Realm. It's that channel is dedicated to spirituality, God, things like that. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being here. And I hope have brought you closer to God, that you touched God in a way that you wanted to touch God during this holy season and every season to come. May it be holy, and may you touch God. Sadly, I didn't begin this series, Holy Week. We were not allowed to go to church. We weren't allowed to bring flowers to the church and decorate the altar to remind us of resurrection after the death of winter. These flowers are bulbs, and these bulbs are forced up through the dirt, through the ground, through what we thought was dead and what was no longer beautiful. They're forced up by the cold, and as we know, the cold always brings sickness and death every year. And these are the flowers that we always use to decorate the cross where Christ was crucified. Death into life. We could not even go to the church in our cars and have a service performed outside the church. Governor in Kentucky said you couldn't do that. Arrested for not wearing masks, for gathering together even though everyone is sealed in their cars. Only connected, I suppose, by God. I suppose they would have been connected in some way. Every day I'm going to be reading a passage in the Bible to give you back what you lost. The Jews also could not celebrate Passover in shul, in the temple, but they did in their homes. The Passover meal, where they dip parsley in salted water, reminding them of the bitterness that they endured. The night the angel of death passed over their home, because they painted the doors with the blood of a lamb, of a sacrificed lamb. Beginning in the story of Abraham, God told him to bring his son Isaac to be sacrificed. Christopher Hitchens, whom I love, said, if anyone asked me to do that, I would. And he put his middle finger up and said those two words. But Christopher didn't understand. Abraham came out of a world, a pagan world, a world where there was sacrifice. And for some reason, the world has forgotten the reason why people adopted Christianity and let go of paganism. For some reason, they think that paganism was about peace and the love of the goddess, when it was actually about sacrificing your children, women, and even men. It was about constantly sacrificing animals. Abraham came out of this world. He was obedient to God. And before going up to the mountain, he said that he would see Isaac again. Inside him, he knew that Isaac wasn't going to die. And when Abraham raised the knife over his head, God grabbed his wrist and said, "No, I will provide the sacrifice. See, there is a ram caught in a thicket." Ram caught in a thicket. The thicket has thorns. And it was the ram that took the place of Abraham's son, Isaac. Abraham had 2 sons, one by his legitimate wife, Sarah, and one by Hagar, his slave wife. The Jews are descended from Isaac. And the Arabic people, Muslims, are descended by the son of Hagar. God was not happy and did not delight in the sacrifice of animals, let alone humans. That was the end. That was the end of paganism. And it was the beginning of the march, the story that led us to Jesus. Because God did not delight in the blood of animals. Christ said to God, "Father, I will go down, I will be the last sacrifice. You do not delight in the blood of animals." It was ridiculous. How could an animal wash sins away to begin with? It was the animal that sacrificed itself, it wasn't the person. And the blood only washed the sins away for a year, not for all time. I think Christ was quite disgusted by this act. God was. And they say Isaiah. I shall be reading my favorite passage today from Isaiah. I think I would have liked Isaiah. They say he was crazy. He worked in the temple. And when they burned the incense and they sacrificed the animals, they took the blood and they sprayed it all over the veil of the temple. The same veil that was torn in two when Christ died on the cross. And they sprayed the Holy of Holies with the blood and poured the blood all over the horns, the 4 horns, on each of the corners of the altar. And the Pharisees had become so decadent. They weren't sacrificing anything to God. They burned the incense, and it was the sweet incense, the sacredness, and the blood that sickened Isaiah, that he ran out of the temple, and he looked up into the sky, and God said to him, "No, no more." And Isaiah said, as great of a sacrifice it is to offer these animals to God, this blood sacrifice, it is far greater and far more of a sacrifice to not kill the animal. Isaiah used to walk through the town naked Why did he do this? Because he was crazy? No, he did it because he wasn't crazy. There is a parable that Jesus taught. He said that when they ask for your cloak, give them your coat as well. Because people were so poor that they had to give up their wardrobe to the rich man in the morning so they'd have some money to buy food for their family. Yet at the end of the day, if they couldn't find work to pay back the rich person, they were taken to court, and God said, "Oh, you've already taken your cloak. Take off everything and walk out," Christ said. When he said offer the rest of your clothing, he meant take everything off and walk out of the courtroom naked. You see, in Judaism, Jesus was extremely wise. His teachings were far wiser than people realized. We hear these and we think we must give, and we must give too much. We must give until we are naked, until we are starving. Jesus didn't mean that at all. You see, in Judaism, it is not the naked person that is shamed, but it is the one that looks upon the naked person that is shamed. So he says, walk out of the courtroom and shame everyone in there. You tried your best. You didn't earn enough money. You had to use that money to feed your children and yourself. And there, they won't give you back your clothes, even though you tried. It was too much of a price they were asking of this poor person. So Isaiah knew that at the time the Jewish people were getting, they were falling away from God. They misunderstood the meaning of the scriptures. And the Pharisees were so decadent. You see, what they did was they used to burn the skin, the fat, and the bones. And they used to keep the finest pieces of meat for themselves. They asked the people to bring the young, unblemished animal to them so they could eat the best, the tenderest. It is about the tongue. That's why they eat spring kill, suckling pig, animals, babies that are still suckling on their mother. It is about the tongue. And that is the decadence of the Pharisees that we have taken on, that we must let go of. So, Isaiah, knowing that the Jewish people had gone too far, they were losing God, he would walk through the town naked and shame everyone. Wake up. Look at your shame. Know that you are being shamed. You are living a life of shame. And it was Isaiah that told us of the coming of the Lamb whose blood would wash sins away forever. Now, isn't that the perfect God? The God that doesn't... Why are we adopting these pagan beliefs? Is the God, wouldn't you think the most peaceful, the most perfect God would be the God that said, I will come down and I will sacrifice myself. I will take on human flesh so I can feel your sorrows, your pain, your sickness. I will live amongst you and know your poverty. I will know every tear of your heart. And when I die, I will die in the most excruciatingly painful way and humiliating. Christ was naked. He was naked on the cross. It was humiliating. And it was the most painful death possible. And thereby ending sacrifice forever. That you look to God and you say, sorry, I realize what I've done. Ask for forgiveness. Ask for forgiveness and you shall be forgiven. That is the perfect God, not a God that demands sacrifice. Sacrifice your children, sacrifice your animals, sacrifice yourself even. They will pick, the king will pick, the people will pick who is to be sacrificed. That is not of God. God comes down and weds himself to mankind, and in that union, he dies. The most humiliating death possible, reserved for the poorest of people, oppressed by the Romans. That is God. This is my favorite of all passages of Isaiah, my favorite prophet. He was despised and rejected of men, a man of sorrows, yet unacquainted with grief, oppressed and afflicted. Yet he opened not his mouth. He was brought as a lamb to slaughter, and as a sheep before his shearer is dumb. Surely he hath borne our grief, and carried our sorrows. Yet we esteemed him stricken, smitten of God, and afflicted. But he was wounded for our transgressions. He was abused for our iniquities, and through his wounds we are healed. And born again. And before the sky stormed and the rain fell, before the veil in the temple was torn in two, the veil that separated the people from the Holy of Holies, the Ark of the Covenant. In the 9th hour, Jesus shouted out in a loud voice, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. My God, why have you forgotten me?